At 12:30 Paris time today, January 23, 1973, the agreement on ending the war and restoring peace in Vietnam was initialed by Dr. Henry Kissinger on behalf of the United States and Special Advisor Lee Duc-To on behalf of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. We must recognize that ending the war is only the first step toward building the peace. All parties must now see to it that this is a peace that lasts and also a peace that heals. And a peace that not only ends the war in Southeast Asia, but contributes to the prospects of peace in the whole world.
MIA POW wives across the nation have been somewhat divided about how the President should have handled the war. What feelings do you think prevailed in the administration's thinking in its negotiations?
I think that they had to view the families as a whole, and I believe the majority of the families were completely supporting President Nixon. We felt that he was, as he said tonight on his statement, that this will not be in vain for the men who have given their lives. It has to be worthwhile. There has to be a just peace.
What are your feelings about the way the peace negotiations have been conducted over the past few weeks?
I've been very pleased with how they've been negotiated. I'm sorry that the first episode there in November, we jumped the gun maybe a little bit. I think that it might have gone through had we not had the press leak so early in the game, but I feel that President Nixon was right during the whole time in December when he regained the bombing of the North. It has pushed the North Vietnamese to the peace table and finally to signing the agreement the way we wanted it, to make it an honorable peace at last. It's been too long a war to pull out at the last minute because of small details.
It's a time of happiness and anxiety and apprehension and fear, I guess, a fear of the unknown for some of us who don't have much hope. Happiness for those who know their guys are coming home soon. And I think one of the big things is a sense of relief that it's finally over and that we're going to know one way or the other what the answer is to the question we've wanted the answer to for such a long time.
Did Chuck warn you? We're not...
Good evening. It is being issued at this moment in Washington and Hanoi. I've asked for this radio and television time tonight for the purpose of announcing that we today have concluded an agreement to end the war and bring peace with honor in Vietnam and in Southeast Asia. The following will be signed by the parties participating in the Paris Conference on Vietnam on January 27, 1973 at South Vietnam within the terms of the agreement, and we shall support efforts by the people of South Vietnam to settle their problems peacefully among themselves. That the terms of the agreement must be scrupulously adhered to. We shall do everything the agreement requires of us, and we shall expect the other parties to do everything it requires of them. We shall also expect other interested nations to help ensure that the agreement is carried out and peace is maintained. As this long and very difficult war ends, I would like to address a few special words to each of those who have been parties in the conflict. First, to the people and government of South Vietnam. By your courage, by your sacrifice, you have won the precious right to determine your own future. And you have developed the strength to defend that right. We look forward to working with you in the future, friends in peace, as we have been allies in war. To the leaders of North Vietnam, as we have ended the war through negotiations, let us now build a peace of reconciliation. For our part, we are prepared to make a major effort to help achieve that goal. But just as reciprocity was needed to end the war, so too will it be needed to build and strengthen the peace. To the other major powers that have been involved, even indirectly, now is the time for mutual restraint, so that the peace we have achieved can last. And finally, to all of you who are listening,
What are your feelings about this time?
Well, mixed emotions, I'm sure, for all of us. Because if we hadn't been able to get their support, we could
I
have
think
gotten-
all of the wives of the POWs and MIAs are grateful to the great support that the American people have given to our cause. 6 years ago, there was never a mention of a POW or an MIA. It was a strange initial. I'd tell someone my husband was MIA, they might say, gee, that's nice, glad to hear it. Never knowing that I wasn't even to tell my neighbor what his status was. And now it's a common name. People are wearing bracelets, and I think because of the great campaign, more men will come home alive or in better health. I know that the recently shot down POWs will be returned in good health, not having been tortured or mistreated. And I'm grateful for that, and I know all the wives are.
I think also we owe a very deep gratitude to the people in this town, I guess to start with, who have given us so much support in our efforts to arouse public opinion. Without their support, we couldn't have done the things that we have done. And I think the press has been good to give us publicity when we needed it. They've never failed to come around when we've asked them to help us. The people across the country who, as Marge said, have worn bracelets, who've written letters, who've marched and just supported us in our efforts to make it a public issue, not only throughout the country, but throughout the world.
Barbara, you heard the President's speech tonight. What are your feelings tonight now?
Well, as a family, we're very thrilled and relieved and quite hopeful that this time it really truly will be a settlement and there will be an end to it and our family will be complete once more.
Have you had any word at all from your husband?
Yes, we've had word off and on through the years.
And where is he now?
I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine where he is. I assume that he's somewhere in North Vietnam.
He is being held by the North Vietnamese.
Well, that's my impression.
Now, what are your plans for the time he comes home?
I have no plans. We'll be there, our family's waiting for him, and we'll do what the circumstances seem to dictate at that time.
How do you feel about the way Mr. Kissinger and Mr. Nixon have carried on these negotiations over the past few weeks?
I think they've done remarkably well considering the difficulties they've had to overcome.
Would you have wished for any changes in the final outcome?
Well, I really am not thinking probably of our nation. I'm probably being much more selfish about that and thinking about our family. And I really don't know what I want to say about what he has had to say. I think we need to wait and let history give us a little clearer picture of what really has happened over these years.
Now, how do you feel the POW-MIA organization has affected the peace negotiations?
I think they've been very wise in remaining non-political, but I do think it's to their credit that we feel our men have had better treatment and that I believe my husband will be coming home.